Uh, as I stand before you here and would like to share with you our experience in making more efficient buildings. I recall a day about 2 years ago, I think it was August of 2013, when I got a phone call from the infrastructure vice president of one of our largest banks, ICICI. And Anuj Agarwal, that was his name, said, we have 50,000 branches across the country, and our energy bill is very large. Many of these are rented. Some of those are owned by us, and we are going to build many new buildings. Can you tell us what to do? To cut a long story short, what happened was that we started discussing what his challenges were. And he said, listen, who do I talk to? Who tells me what to do? We said, OK, we found somebody. Then he came back and said, yeah, but what are the kinds of arrangements we get into them? How will we pay them? What are the metrics? To cut a long story short, we figured out that it was important to figure out what needs to be done, who does it, and how. And then we needed to address both new and existing buildings. In developing countries, the vast amount of infrastructure that we'll have is yet to be built. Somebody told me that of all the buildings that will exist in 2030, more than half are yet to be built. This presents a huge challenge, because while we have to look at retrofitting existing buildings, we also need to look at how do we make new buildings more efficient, that each building built today is more efficient than the one built yesterday. So we started looking at what are the means to get this done. And as we worked with Anuj and with many, many other people across the country, what we figured out was, what they need are checklists. So he went into his buildings. There were some which were only branches, bank branches. There were others which were backroom operations. There were others which were administrative buildings. And for each one of those, we developed a list of the actions that could be taken. And then he got a brainwave. He put in an IT system by which he could monitor each of those buildings. The managers of those branches could figure out how much energy was being used. And together, we were able to establish a system that helped them to monitor and measure what they were doing. In the process, he developed a lot of people who could do this internally and who could provide these as services. When we looked at new buildings, we realized that what we needed was a code. We needed to ensure that there were people, architects, who could work with that code. We drew on many, many countries to figure out what they had done. The US, Germany, France, Switzerland, and learned what is it that they did to train the people that were needed to build them the experience that they could do things themselves and build capacity in others. At the same time, we had to build systems, processes, like the checklists I spoke about, like the codes for new buildings, how to monitor performance and savings. Believe you me, it was difficult. Handling energy in buildings is difficult. But as we moved ahead, we realized that to accelerate adoption, we needed to share experience. Because there's a huge amount of diversity. Each one of us lives in different types of climate zones. We need to figure out how is it that we can be effective in our own conditions. We work with people in buildings. It's their behavior that matters. We need to learn how to handle that. Day before yesterday, here, we launched a global alliance to be able to share our experiences across countries and across the world, and we hope that that will provide a measure of moving fast. As we move ahead and we move towards super efficient and zero energy buildings, We hope that this alliance would provide the experience and sharing that is needed so that each building across the world is worth living and energy efficient. I thank you for your attention.